Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Blades of Avernum. Last episode, we took a look throughout the seas of this land and the various islands contained within. Now we've finally made it to Copperpeak and we have to make it to the town itself. But to do that, we need to sneak through this little port over here. We have some dark side armor. I don't know if we need to wear it right now or not. We'll find out when we come in. One of the loyalists spots you and shouts an alarm. Not good. Alright. Let me reload just so I can try that with the armor on. Alright, this time, everyone's getting a piece of armor. Alright, let's see here. I think it worked. Yeah, it looks like this time it works. Yeah, I see what needs to be done here. Can we actually speak with them? It occurs to you that if you're trying to sneak past these loyalists, striking up a conversation might not be the best plan. Message received. Don't talk to the loyalists. But hey, it's working. The sign has been thoroughly defaced with meaningless graffiti. Also ignore that beep. I'm aware it's been coming up. It's basically the watch I've been using to keep track of time. Okay, so that is sneaking by. You stumble upon a rather large group of Darkside loyalists. For a moment you worry that you'll be overwhelmed by sheer force of numbers, but then they see your armor. Amazingly, the armor you stole from their slain comrades is enough to convince them that you are on the same side. You mutter a few pleasantries and slip past them. Okay. Now I imagine... At last, you can see the front gate of Copperpeak. Now you just have to find a way to get in. Groups of loyalists are camped out behind stands of trees, just out of crossbow range. Looks like they've been here for a while now. You'll have to get past them one way or another if you want to reach the gate. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to do that either. Upon closer examination, it looks like the Loyalists have set up a semi-permanent camp here. This is clearly a well-organized effort. What's more alarming, however, is the presence of several large, well-maintained siege weapons. Yes, I imagine that would be very alarming. Yeah, they have siege weapons set up. I mean, we can get away with sneaking by them. But hey, at least by sneaking around, they don't know. Finally, you're close enough to the gates that you can see the guards patrolling the walls. In fact, it looks like one of the guards is pointing at you. The guard points at you and raises his bow. Take one step closer and I fire! Your confusion quickly gives way to the realization that you're still wearing the Loyalist armor. The guard has clearly noticed this. We're not Loyalists. The guard looks you up and down, but he does not lower his bow. Nice try. Step closer, I dare you. This doesn't appear to be getting you anywhere. So if we step too close to the gates, the guys we're trying to help are going to fire on us. But I think we're far enough away that we can swap out here. Now that you've changed your armor, and the Loyalists are noticing, the guard takes a long look at you. He ducks behind the parapet for a moment. When he reappears, you hear a rattling of chains. He gestures to the gate, which is slowly rattling open. Go, now! Well, at least now you know how you're getting into the city. Yeah, they're very trusting, in all honesty. Oh, wow, I like how there's actually damage to the walls. But they are surprisingly trusting, considering that we pretty much did nothing but change our armor in front of them. Run inside. You hear a rattling of chains, and the outer gate closes. And the inner gate opens. As the inner gate closes behind you, the sounds of battle grow dim. Of course, you don't care that much, because now there are two gates between the Loyalists and you. The other side of that equation is that you're trapped in Copperpeak now. A few people look at you uncertainly as you get your bearings. You should probably find whoever's in charge here. Yeah, wise idea. Of course, I'm going to look around the town as I normally do first. Copperpeak seems a relatively small town, but it is well defended. Alright. Set a little well, set a statue in the middle. Who's this? The first thing you notice about this woman is that she seems out of place. She seems comfortable enough with the goings-on of the kitchen around her, but for some reason it doesn't seem to suit her. Then you spot the sling and bullet pouch attached to her belt and the scars in her arms, and it seems to make sense. She greets you with an anxious smile. Ah, you're the newcomers. My name's Carly, and until recently I was an adventurer like you. Then I took now I'm stuck out here watching over the supplies. You used to be an adventurer? Yes, and if I had my way, I still would be. But the commander's got a point when he says that it'd be suicide to leave the city. But I guess I should explain. I had a small party of my own just a little while ago. It's a good gig to have out here, what with all the unexplored islands. People pay a lot for an escort. There were 4 of us. Phil was the fighter, I'd provide cover fire and light healing, and Alice was an apprentice mage until she blew up a professor. Then there was Matthew. And, well, Matthew was an outright bastard. What happened to the rest of the party? Her expression gets cold and distant very quickly. Matthew turned traitor on us. He said there was some wizard out here willing to pay 1,000 gold to deliver a package to the mainland. And he was lying. As soon as we landed on this island, he disappeared into the jungle. Not a minute later, and a pack of loyalists charged out at us, aiming to kill. Matthew was with them. Phil and Alice got cut down before they knew what was going on. I just barely got out of there alive, and I raced up here before the Loyalists really pressed the siege. Carly continues anxiously pacing the room, occasionally looking over at the oven. What are you doing here now? I'm keeping an eye on the food. The soldiers make sure everyone gets their fair share, but someone still has to watch the food itself. That's me. And I'll tell you this, we don't have much left. Don't even try stealing anything, or I'll cut you up myself. Why don't you come with us? Carly thinks about the offer, idly running a finger along one of her scars. Well, I suppose Phil and Alice would have wanted me to keep it up, and if I happen across Matthew, that'll just make it sweeter. In fact, yes, I would love to join you, as long as we kill Matthew if we find him. Yes, of course. She pulls out her sling and twirls it around, ready for action. Excellent, let's get moving then. If you decide you're sick of me, just bring me back here and I'll get back to work. And stay with me. No, stay with me! No, stay with me! Okay then. So we have an adventurer joining us. Ooh. This building looks like it used to be a forge until it was nearly burned to the ground. A few pieces of debris are still smoking. So much for the forge. That's weird. These sacks are just full of rocks. Weird indeed. The sign has been charred beyond illegibility. As the door swings open, a strong alchemical smell nearly knocks you off your feet. Amidst the haze inside, you think you can see a mage. This young mage is very focused on the mixture he's made in a mortar. He occasionally glances at the hourglass on the table and taps some mortar. Eventually, he notices you.
Oh, adventurers! I take it you're the ones who just arrived. My name is Tyler, and I am but a scholar trapped here.
What are you doing here?
Well, I came out here to study the local flora. Of course, with the siege, I can't do much, but I still maintain a few experiments within these walls.
He prods a mixture again.
But I'm sure that adventurers such as yourselves would be bored to death by this, so I will spare you.
Oh, I'd love to hear about your work.
Really? Well, let me get one of my specimens then.
He ducks under the table and retrieves a shrunken little plant. Looks like it's half dead, but it puts a huge smile on Tyler's face.
Now, you see, this little guy is a unique specimen because of the way it processes local toxins.
That's about as far as you're able to follow him. It continues for what feels like an eternity. You smile and nod. You won't be making that mistake again. Tyler prods a mixture in his mortar, and it hisses. Can you teach us anything?
Naturally. What, after all, is the point of learning if you do not share the wealth? I am well versed in basic alchemy, as well as a few spells that people of your kind might find useful.
What would you like to know? Alchemy! Energy potion! That's the only one we really need right now. What about spells? I mean, I guess we can make healing stronger. That's good. Curing 2. And Draco? Light stronger. We don't really need it, but why not? That's all. Okay. Moving on. You make small talk with this woman, but don't learn anything new. This child is fast asleep. You see nothing to be gained by waking him. Townsman. Townswoman. Does the guard have anything to say? This guard eyes you with equal amounts of suspicion and optimism. As a result, you don't get any farther than a gruff hello. One thing's for sure, the siege has the city's garrison on high alert. These soldiers couldn't be farther away from the apathetic narcoleptics you're used to seeing in most cities. Also, I just realized, I forgot that we had leveled up recently. I think Fox could use some defense, actually. And I guess a point in hardiness. Sheik, how about a point in intelligence? And then a point in hardiness. Bonnie. I think hardiness is actually something she could use. So yeah, points in that. What does it take for that? Oh, we got enough. And put a point in it so if we ever make any. And Draco, not leveled up. Okay, we're good. This building is full of sleeping people, probably refugees from the surrounding farms. One of them stirs as you enter, but they do not wake up. This woman is passed out, sitting down. A half-finished game of chess sits next to her, and it's not clear who she was playing. You decide that there's nothing to be gained from waking her, and move on. This man is splayed out on the ground, snoring loudly. Occasionally, he thrashes around, further entangling himself with a sleeping pad. You decide not to wake him. This child is sleeping quietly enough that for a moment you worry she might be dead. However, when you approach her, she quietly whimpers and rolls over. You elect to not wake her. This aging man is sleeping peacefully, something which you can hardly believe given the circumstances. You let him be, seeing no reason to disturb him. Judging from the sparse furnishings, this room looks like the barracks. It's quiet. There's only one soldier here, and he's sleeping. This archer is sleeping fitfully, probably exhausted from a shift in the walls. He didn't even bother to change out his armor. You leave him be. Not getting in there. As the door swings open, you hear a clinking sound, like glass on glass. Inside, you find a weary-looking soldier hunched over a desk. He has one hand on a bottle of ale and one hand on the hilt of his sword. Of course, when he sees you, he relaxes. Slightly. Like most of the people in Copperpeak, this soldier first reacts to your arrival like the Loyalists have breached the gate. Once he calms down, however, he releases his grip on his sword. Not on the bottle of ale, however.
Oh, so you're the fools who broke into the city. I thought you'd look crazier than you do. I'm Commander Fisher, and I'm in charge of the city of Copperpeak. What do you want?
Fisher's voice cracks every so often, probably from the stress. Or the ale. Doesn't look like he's had much rest. So what's the situation here? Fisher looks at you as if your head was on fire.
Seriously? You're serious. You want to know what's going on. We're trapped in the city. The Loyalists control the rest of the island, and they aren't leaving. We're running out of food. Every soldier that gets picked off of the walls makes our position that much more tenuous. Why, last week they bombed the forge. I don't know how they bombed the forge, but it was just on fire one night. Now it's a ruin, and that's only because we put it out in time. We're dead, that's what's going on. It's just a matter of when.
Well then why don't you just surrender? Commander Fisher laughs, a deep, unsettling laugh. A maniacal laugh.
Don't you see? Whatever happens to us while we're trapped in here can't possibly be worse than what the Loyalists will have cooked up for us. We're all scared to death. The only thing I can imagine worse than capture by Loyalists is if they took the city. Then the Empire retook it. We would be hailed as traitors and cowards. No, the best we can hope for is to die a so-called honorable death at the hands of the Loyalists. Hasn't changed much. We're still dead.
How are you holding up? Fisher blinks and absent-mindedly plays with the lock on his desk.
I'm holding out. I have my ways of keeping alert. Also helps that I haven't had a good night's sleep in days.
He takes a swig from his bottle of ale. Tell me about Copperpeak.
There's not much to tell, I'm afraid. The city was built just 14 years ago, and it was supposed to oversee mining operations on the island. Well, the mining never really panned out, so the city lives on as a sort of outpost for people who posted to the islands for whatever reason. We get a fair number of mages, too. Naturally, we've only got one right now. Luckily for us, the Empire built the city tough. The walls can take a beating, and they have. The gate's held tough as well. Thankfully, we only have one gate to defend. Is there another way out of Copperpeak? Fisher pauses. Then he unlocks and opens his desk, withdrawing a large folded sheet of parchment. He flips it around, and you see that it's a map of the city. Oh, there is one other way out. We got some storage space underground, usually used for experiments. There might still be a tunnel leading out of there to the jungle. Of course, I for one hope that it's sealed off. That's just another route the Loyalists could use to get in here.
You said there's a mage here.
Yes, his name's Tyler. Quiet. I don't like him. I'd trade him for a decent healer any day of the week. And you'd think that a mage could be up on the walls blasting away the Loyalists as they come, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Apparently he just studies plants. Plants!
Commander Fisher watches you closely, as if expecting you to switch sides and attack him. He twitches occasionally, running his fingers over the woodwork on his desk. What do you want us to do? The commander sneers, and you catch a whiff of the alcohol in his breath.
Well, if you can find the time, why don't you just go kill the leader of the Loyalists? He's got a ship out there somewhere. Oh, and if you're still free after that, kill all of the Loyalists on the island. Go nuts.
No, seriously, we're adventurers. He seems to get a grip about it on himself, which isn't saying much, but it's an improvement.
Okay. That part about their leader, I wasn't really kidding. That might be just the reprieve we've been looking for. I've seen him out in front of the gates a few times. His name is Trevan. The rest of the Loyalists seem to revere him like a god next to their precious Doricus. If you could kill him, the Loyalists would lose their rallying point. It's true the Loyalists have been very organized, but I've seen outfits like that before. Typically, it's one man keeping it all from spiraling into chaos, and I think that man is Trevan.
Tell us about Trevan. Fisher shudders, nearly tipping over his ale.
He's fearsome. Back when we were fighting the Loyalists on the ground, before we realized how badly off we were, he was the Loyalist champion. He fights without weapons. The scary thing is, you wouldn't know it from how deadly he is. He could take on 5 soldiers at once, and he did. Then the Loyalists brought in another wave of ships, and we fell back to the city. I've seen him pacing outside the gates a few times, just out of range. But he's been gone for a few days, so I think he's back on one of the ships. If you're going to try and kill him, I suggest doing it from a distance.
How do we reach Trevan?
Well, if you want an easy way, you could go out and let yourselves get captured. He'd probably be the one to interrogate you. Of course, that'd probably get you killed. If you're going to be looking for him, you can't go back out the front. Your best shot is probably to go underground. You remember that tunnel I told you about? Go find the mage and talk to him about it. I don't know what's down there right now. Alright. That might work out best. If we can sneak in close to him... Commander Fisher told us to ask you about the tunnel out of the city. A puzzled look crosses Tyler's face. You mean the experiment tunnels? I don't know about a tunnel leaving the city, but I suppose one could be down there somewhere. It would certainly be good news for those of us who want to leave. If you go to the storehouse in the southwest corner of the city, look under the bag of rocks. There's a trap door. I just ask this of you, please don't disturb my experiments. They've been undisturbed for months and must stay that way. Under the bags of rocks. Okay. Don't disturb the experiments. Well, we'll see how that goes. You return to the sacks full of rocks, now armed with Tyler's information. Sure enough, you dump out the bags and find a trapdoor. Alright. Well, let's see how big this area is. You descend into the tunnels and are nearly overwhelmed by the scent of stale air. There's actually a way out of the city down here. It's clearly not helping the air circulation. The tunnels themselves appear to be carved out of the dirt by magic. It's far too regular to be a normal excavation, and just haphazard enough to look like a wizard's side project. In any event, you hope that the experiment sites down here aren't dangerous. Of course, they probably are. Why else would they be down here in the first place? Decent size to this place. There's a faint smell of ozone back here. That might account for the collapsed tunnel. Hopefully this wasn't the way out at some point. You can't help but wonder what kind of experiment was carried out in this room. Something was clearly living here, and it ate meat. You rummage around in the nest, hoping to find some clue as to what lived down here, and you find what appears to be a bloody human finger. Disgusted, you toss it away. You haven't seen anyone with less than 10 fingers lately, so you don't know whose it is. Ooh, but we got an energy potion. You've got one, you've got none. You're getting it. The purpose of this chamber seems relatively clear. It was a summoning chamber of some kind. Thankfully, no monsters seem to have been left behind. And we got Dust of Shadows and Cleansing Powder. Oh wait, is this, this leather helmet is probably not useful? No, it's not. You hear a long, low growl from up ahead. A few dusty cabinets and a disused mop suggest that this is the catch-all supply closet for the tunnels. Ooh, Ace Potion, Curing Potion. Don't need that stuff. And some herbs. This room is mostly bare, aside from a long table, a strange platform, and a lever. Then you hear a growl and look to the corner of the room. A giant blue wolf with distorted features stands over a chunk of raw meat, staring straight through you with soulless black eyes. All of a sudden, you have a bad feeling that you know what the other experiment was raising. Little healing, please. There goes that wolf. Just when you were getting your hopes up, this short passage dead ends in a rockfall. If this leads out of the city, you won't be using it anytime soon. Pull the lever. You pull the lever and a pulse of bright light fills the room. The sudden outpouring of magic burns your skin and hurts your eyes. Oh, that was not pleasant. Strange. This passage splits off into a much rougher-looking tunnel lined with debris. You're mulling over what could have caused it when you hear a loud growl. You look over to see another one of the bizarre wolves pawing at a set of bones and staring at you. That goes surprisingly quick. There we go. Though this passage wandered a bit farther from the experiments, it abruptly dead ends at a large rockfall. If this leads out of the city, you won't be using it anytime soon. Oh goody, more of these. You enter into a larger chamber, and you're almost certain that this is where Tyler conducts his experiments. The room is dotted with strange-looking plants that seem to glow. At least you think they are plants, because they don't look like anything you've ever seen before.
At the edges of the room, you can see some strange-looking machinery. More importantly, you think you see a gap in the far wall. Then a few sharp growls remind you that you're not alone. That is a lot! Oh boy! Okay, that's interesting. Hold on, I gotta reload. I did not expect that to be a thing, so be right back. Alright, now that we know what's in there. A few sharp growls remind you you're not alone. Fireball. Ah crap, I'm too close. You're gonna die. Damn it. Alright, I should have done that from afar. Still, that's quite effective. Reloading again. Fortunately, I reloaded from the right spot. Combat. Fireball. It may not have been hostile, but this is effective. Alright. Remind me we're not alone, but we made it through. There's a large button here. It's a carefully placed disc of stone, which will sink to the stone when pressed. Do you? In a moment. This passage catches your eye because the debris that blocks it looks a bit looser. And unless you're hallucinating, you think you can feel a thin breeze coming from it. There's more debris than you can clear out yourself, but maybe you can find a way to blast it away. Oh, I think I know. Push the button. The raised orb to the south begins to glow alarmingly. You have a thinking feeling about this. Ow! Push the button. Press the button and nothing happens. Maybe if you waited a second it would work properly. With a thundering rubble, a cloud of debris blasts out of the tunnel to the north. A quick glance reveals a mostly clear path. Push the button. The orb goes dark and you see the beam begin to dim. Thankfully, nothing explodes. The orb simply collapses in on itself with a loud tinkle of glass. Okay, and that is our way out. Which we'll take in the next episode, because this episode has gone on long enough. I imagine that Mage will be pissed that we destroyed all his plants, but really, considering all the wolves he made? Yeah. Oh, Draco leveled up. I didn't even realize at first. Yeah, a couple points in pole weapons, I guess. Not a bad idea. Alright, next episode, we'll head on out of here. Till then, I'm Chester44, that is Fox, Sheik, Bonnie, and Draco. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play, and I shall see you all next time.